Today, I want to talk about risk-taking. Not the type of risk that we took as adolescents when our frontal lobe was not developed, but the type of risk that we take as educators, right? And the purpose of taking the risk is to improve ourselves as educators, and ultimately, we take risks to really improve what happens in our classroom, our campus, our district. So before I go any further, I want to start with a definition. As a math person, definitions are really important. So the definition I have is actually referenced in business and educational research. Now, the first part where it says loss does not really make sense or apply to education. However, failure does apply, the prospect of failure. So Dr. Ramirez, in her book SOS, mentioned that in science, we have failure, but we call that data. In education, we need to have the same mindset that when we take risk, we should call that data and make failure our friend. So what I want to do is talk about 3 different types of risk. Now, I'm not saying this is an exhaustive list. These are the 3 that came to mind. So the first one I want to talk about is presenting in front of your peers, presenting lessons, ideas, topics in your class that have been successful for you, and you share that with your peers. And I know some of you today took that risk for the very first time, and I hope it went well for you. And if not, then tomorrow, day after, good luck to you on that. And we can also be integrating technology in our classroom. As a math person, I love to bring coding into my classroom. So for some of you, bringing 10 minutes of coding into your classroom might be a risk because, again, it's not familiar to you or your students. But you are willing to bring it in because you know abstract ideas such as functions, constants, variables, all those ideas can be conceptualized using coding into your classroom. Also, since we're at a conference, I want to talk about some of the risks that we don't take as participants. When we are in a session, when we're sitting down, when we have those questions, as educators, we feel like, you know what, I know the answers. Or I should know the answers, so I'm not going to ask some of these questions because I'm not comfortable. I'm not willing to take that risk. And also, if you're a biology teacher, when we look for sessions, we are looking at biology types. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but maybe one session in a day, if you're a biology person, maybe going to an Algebra 1. If you're an Algebra 1 teacher, maybe going to a Cal, Pre-Cal, see how what they're doing impacts or bring things from that session into yours. So let me see if I can propose 2 different unique types of risk, and I want to see how you would handle that. And be very honest with yourself about this. So the first one is, you were just observed by your principal, and you were demoing a lesson with great pedagogy and technology, and at the end of the lesson, your principal comes up to you and says, hey, that was a fantastic lesson. I want you to do that with 40 teachers on our campus. Would you take that risk? Now, the next one, it's going to happen. Or it probably already happened, and I don't know what's your answer, but Kevin will come up to you at 10 p.m. when I'm in the elevator, and he says, hey, Amin, I want you to be one of the 7 for 7 presenter. Now, here's the thing. I'm standing here so you know what the answer is, right? But I'll tell you, when Kevin asked me, internally, I had a different answer. Internally, right? Because here's the thing. For me, a risk always starts internally because there's that first internal battle. For me, I always start off, for some odd reason, again, this is just personally to me, I start off with the I cannot. I feel like I don't belong in that space, right? I doubt myself, especially in unique types of risk. This is unique. I've never done this before. So when Kevin asked me, I was like, why should I be? I don't belong in that space. And for me, I struggled with that multiple times in my career. The first time I got a job at Taylor ISD, being an instructional specialist, again, I doubted myself. When I became a math consultant at Region 10, I doubted myself. And the last time is when I was asked to work with UTD computer science PhD professors to write a curriculum to help integrate math and science into math and science classrooms. So integrate computer science into math and science classrooms. I was working with PhD individuals, and for me, that really caused me to doubt myself. So here's what I learned. If you know you want to take a risk, you have to know who you are. So what I need to do every time I get scared is to stay positive. I look at what I bring to the table. Curriculum writing. I've got pedagogy. I've got experience teaching in the classroom, so I've got to stay positive. Once you have the risk in mind and you have evaluated yourself, the next thing you want to do is surround yourself with individuals that have taken the similar risk. So here's the thing. Research says that if you find individuals that have taken that risk and you surround yourself with those individuals, you are more likely to take that risk. So relationships, Monique, you talked about that. It's really important, right? Surround yourself, build those relationships so when you need support, when you want some guidance, you can actually get that. So now you've identified a risk, self-evaluated yourself, surrounded yourself with individuals that can help you. The next thing you need to do is chunk whatever you want to do into smaller pieces. The research says we're not really good at multitasking. Right? We struggle with that. So what you need to do is take whatever you want to do, break it into smaller chunks. So if your ultimate goal is to actually do something like this for 7 for 7, I hope this is not the first thing you do. Maybe you ask your principal, I would love to share this strategy with the teachers on my department. So do it in front of 6 or 10 individuals. Local conference, and then from there, move on up. Also, if you are trying to bring technology back into your classroom, the last thing you want to do is teach them new technology and also mathematics at the same time. Again, that multitasking, that's a very hard thing for your students, and the same thing for you. It's quite difficult. So the last thing I want to talk about is we tend to take 3 unique types of risk, and I think we're better at the teacher part of it. So as teachers, we can be taking a risk to bring new approaches into our classroom, maybe something like project-based instruction, inquiry-based, maybe technology, 10 minutes of coding, we can do that. The next type of risk you can take is something as a leader. So you brought 10 minutes of coding into your classroom, why not make it equitable and bring it on your campus? So now you're taking a risk as a leader. And the last type of risk you can take is as a learner. For me, the last time I took this risk was to learn coding and to get my CS certification. So we can also take a risk as a learner. So here's what I want to ask you. I would love to hear from you about the types of risks that you've taken or the types of risks you are willing to take. And I would love to hear that. So if you can, use the hashtag T3IC or T3Learns to share some of that educational risk-taking with the rest of us. Thank you so much.